The Russo-Turkish or Russo-Ottoman Wars had lasted over 350 years. The outcomes of these wars determined the outcome of the Russian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, and a modern balance of political power in our world. Major shifts in European power have been caused by a series of wars between the Ottoman Empire and the Russian Empire throughout the 16th and 19th century. These events marked the eventual downfall of the Ottoman Empire and took thousands of lives. Many of the conflicts from the Russo-Turkish War were caused by Russians attempting to come back from previous territorial losses in an effort to re-establish themselves in the Black Sea and the Caucasus Mountains, which was under the Turkish rule. Many other countries played a part in the Russo-Turkish Wars, including Romania, Serbia, and Montenegro, Austria, and other European powers during that time, who were fighting against the Ottoman Empire. Other countries like the United Kingdom, France, in addition to the Sardinia, Piedmont, most notably in the Crimean War, Sweden was also an enemy of Russia during that time period. The Russo-Turkish Wars were a significant part of history because the Russians took down a large empire and shifted the balance of European powers. In addition to that, many countries also gained independence from the Ottomans during the conflict, which occurred throughout the span of several years on and off, continuation of several battles, not just one war. The first war happened from 1568 to 1570, the first war between the Tsardom of Russia under Ivan the Terrible and the Ottoman Empire led by Sultan Selim II. The Ottoman Empire wanted to build a canal through a region under Grand Vizier Sokollu Mehmed Pasha that would connect the Don rivers and Volga rivers so the Turkish would have been able to sail their boats to the Caspian Sea. The Ottoman Empire began their plan of building the canal, so Grand Vizier Sokollu decided to send the Ottoman army across the Black Sea. They were able to build the canal, but never finished since the Russian commander attacked the Ottomans who were busy building the canal. The Ottoman Empire struggled with lacks of supplies to help defeat the Russian army, so the Ottomans were forced to retreat and end up losing the conflict. The Ninth Russo-Turkish War lasted from 1828 through 1829. This war started when Mehmed II, who was the ruler of the Ottoman Empire, who decided to stop the Russian Empire ships from using the Dardanelles Strait, as well as deciding to cancel an agreement that was made earlier called the Ackerman Convention. This was a treaty signed by the Ottoman Empires and Ottoman on October 17th. This treaty forced the Ottomans to accept whatever demands the Russians had regarding the Balkan autonomy, as well as increasing Russian influence over Moldavia and Wallachia in the Balkans, as well as being able to allow the ships from the Russian Empire to have access to the Black Sea and Danube. There were also tensions from the Greek War of Independence and the Battle of Navarino. The Russian army had 100,000 soldiers, and they were all led by Nicholas I. While the Ottoman Empire was led by Aga Hussein Pasha, Nicholas I decided to declare war on April 6. He decided to move his troops into the Danube Principalities. The war ended with the Russians ending, and also by a treaty called the Treaty of Adrianople in September 1829. Russia secured its control over the Danube's mouth, as well as the eastern Black Sea coast, as well as annexing the key fortress and territories such as Anapa, Poti, and Aklashike. This war was also a major loss for the Ottoman Empire because it had exposed how weak their army was, which resulted in huge territorial losses as well as political losses. The conflict was not just a win for Russia, but also a win for Greece. The treaty that had ended the war helped move Greece closer to independence then very quickly after that fully gained independence. The 11th Russo-Turkish War lasted from 1877 through 1878, which was the last and largest war of the entire conflict. This war was caused by the Balkans' rise of nationalism. The people who lived near the Balkans wanted to be set free from the rule of the Ottoman Empire, as well as Russia wanted to get back their land that had been stolen from an earlier war like the Crimean War, as well as Russia liking the idea of the Balkans becoming an independent nation and Russia wanting to gain its control back over the Black Sea. In the end, Russia had won the war and was able to collect new land in the Caucasus. Then countries gained independence because of Russia's victory, such as Montenegro, Serbia, and Romania. An important figure from the Russo-Turkish War of 1877 through 1878 was Tsar Alexander II. He fought in the last Russo-Turkish War and was known as the Tsar Liberator. Because of his edict of emancipation, the Russian Empire took role in the Russo-Turkish War of 1877 through 1878 because Tsar Alexander II declared war on April 1877 to support the Balkan Slavic rebels who were gonna go against the Ottoman Empire because of Tsar Alexander. As well, also so he could expand the Russian influence in the region. Because of this huge victory for the Russian Empire in this war, he had helped Montenegro, Serbia, and Romania gain its own independence without being under the Ottoman Empire's rule. The Russian Empire had also gained some land in the Caucasus, such as Kars, Ardahan, and Batum, as well as regained lands that Russia used to have that were from Europe, like the southern Bessarabia because of Tsar Alexander II. And the Russian Empire's gained land was finalized because of the Treaty of San Stefano, which was a peace treaty that would end the Russo-Turkish War that they were involved in. In the end, the Ottoman Empire's control over the Balkans, like I said before, Russia's territorial changes were finalized, and the independence of Serbia, Montenegro, and Romania. During the Crimean War before the Russo-Turkish War of 1877, Tsar Alexander II took the throne in February 1855 while continuing the war and intensified it while defending Sevastopol. Mikhail Skobelev was a ruthless and skilled general, famous for his heroism and his ability to sway several battles throughout the Russo-Turkish Wars in Russia's favor. In 1868, he was sent to Tashkent on a campaign in the Khanate of Khiva, which was a success. Later, in 1876, he captured the city of Andizan and made it possible for the Russians to move in further and occupy the entire place. The Russians then annexed Coquelin and renamed to the province of Fergana and made him a major general and the governor of the province. During that, the governor-general of Russian Turkestan, Konstantin Petrovich, forced the Caliph of Coquelin to sign a treaty that allowed for Russian merchants to travel and reside in Coquelin. After this, Coquelin was particularly only a vassal of the Russian Empire and became very unstable as people quickly became resistant to the Russian rule.
What if Russia lost the Russo-Turkish Wars? The Ottoman Empire was an important power for a long time in the world, but imagine if they had won the war, and instead Russia was wiped out. It's not a surprise that Russia has had a huge influence on the world as we know it, and if Russia wasn't there for events like World War I, World War II, the Cold War, and many more, the world would look completely different today.
The Ottoman Empire was one of the largest empires in the world and lasted for about 624 years, from 1299 to 1923. but did not become a full-blown empire until about the 14th century. If the Ottoman Empire still existed today, it would be 727 years old, twice as old as the United States, and Russia would only be an empire of the past if the Ottomans had successfully weakened them enough to collapse during their centuries of fighting.
Here's a map of Russia, the Ottoman Empire, the Balkans region, and the Black Sea. Make sure to keep this in mind for later, as it's going to be part of our test.
With no Russia, there would be no Cold War, which was a fundamental event for American and Russian society. The Cold War was vital to the technological advancement of both countries, specifically in nuclear advancement. The conflict was a result of World War II, after the alliance between the USA and the Soviet Union fell. If Russia had been wiped out before both of the world wars could happen, the Cold War wouldn't have happened. The war started in 1947, and Russia and the US began to race each other to gain more power in rockets, missiles, and nuclear weapons. The war changed the trajectory of our progress in technology, and without it, technological advancement in the United States would have gone much slower.
Our society in the United States without Russia would have also taken a different path, as the clash between capitalist and communist ideologies in both countries largely affected the way our societies work today. If it hadn't happened, the general population's understanding and views on socialism and/or communism might be different. However, America would have most likely still opposed the ideology even without Russia. Without the Russian Revolution, the socialist ideology would not be as well known, as the revolution widely popularized the idea. The Cold War eventually led to the Cuban Missile Crisis in the 60s, when Russia supplied Cuba with missiles after the failed Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba, carried out by the US in an attempt to take down Fidel Castro's government. It's possible that the USA could have succeeded in a larger attack against Cuba if they weren't supplied with weapons by Russia. The Cuban Missile Crisis also helped to relieve some tensions between the USA and Russia during the Cold War and assisted in the eventual end of the conflict. In World War II, Russia was the main contributor to the downfall of Nazi Germany. Although Russia would not have been able to take down Germany without the help of allied powers like the United Kingdom and the United States, whose support greatly strengthened them. If Russia didn't exist during World War II, there's a possibility that the outcome of Nazi Germany could have been very different. If they weren't there as the main country weakening Germany, it's likely that it would have been easier for Germany to maintain power in the war, and allow for the Nazis to control Germany even after 1945. The war would have likely gone on for much longer and allowed the Nazis to stay in power even after 1945. Although Russia would not have been able to take down Germany without the help of allied powers like the United Kingdom and the United States, whose support greatly strengthened them. If Russia didn't exist during World War II, there's a possibility that the outcome of Nazi Germany could have been very different. If they weren't there as the main country weakening Germany, it's likely that it would have been easier for Germany to maintain power in the war, and allow for the Nazis to control Germany even after 1945. The war would have likely gone on for much longer and allowed the Nazis to stay in power even after 1945.